having your superiors or people around you that are 20, 30 years older than you, who have been in the trade for 20, 30, 40 years, and you have to go up to them and tell them you screwed up. That's a very hard thing to do, but it's the right thing. And learning to take ownership of your mistakes is very, very important. And it's going to be a great skill, a great trait to have throughout your career. What is this thing that you need to take to help you be a good apprentice and a good skill, a good trait to have throughout your whole career? This thing is accountability. Now, why is accountability important to take, and why is it a good trait to have? Getting started in the lineman trade when I was a very young individual, a young adult at 20 years old, I didn't really know what it meant to take accountability and or ownership of things that I did when I screwed up. I was freaked out, right? I mean, as I should be, or as you would be, having your superiors or people around you that are 20, 30 years older than you, who have been in the trade for 20, 30, 40 years, and you have to go up to them and tell them you screwed up. That's a very hard thing to do, but it's the right thing. And learning to take ownership of your mistakes is very, very important. And it's going to be a great skill, a great trait to have throughout your career. And I've noticed that so far in my short career so far in the lineman trade, or just in the blue collar world in general, is taking accountability is very important. When I got started in the lineman trade, in the apprenticeship, I kind of screwed up a few times, and I screw up still to this day, but the difference is now I take ownership or accountability of screwing up. And I think that's very, very important. And I try to pass that down to apprentices that I have on my crew. You can always just expect them to mess up. That's part of being, a new individual or new person in a trade you're unfamiliar with. And that's the whole point of an apprenticeship, is learning on the job and learning from your mistakes or other people's mistakes. Hopefully those mistakes aren't things that could result in injury or death, which that's by no means not out of the picture working in a skilled trade. When I got started in the lineman apprenticeship, we were using pieces of equipment like a digger derrick or a crane and these pieces of heavy equipment. And as an apprentice, you kind of always want to just be like, you're always on your toes, and you always kind of want to be like 5 steps ahead and be doing things without the journeyman telling you how to do things or what you need to do. So you're always trying to be like ready or prepared or always on the go. And this kind of really screwed me up. And one time, this was the first time that I kind of messed up, and it was totally my fault, and I wasn't sure what I should do. And I decided I wanted to run the digger derrick machine by myself. And what had happened here was the other linemen, they were in the bucket truck. They had to go run to do something else. And they said, hey, Austin, go set up that digger derrick truck. Over there, we got to set this concrete pad and the switch device and whatever else. And all I had to do was drive over there, set the digger derrick up, put the outriggers down, and just get the truck set up. That's all I had to do. And then get material ready, be proactive in some areas that didn't include me running the machine, the winch line, the boom, it all by myself, which you got to understand as an apprentice, you're always trying to be proactive. You're always like, yeah, it'd be cool. The journeyman show up and I already have, this pad set and I already have the job done. And as an apprentice, you're supposed to be under direct journeyman supervision 100% of the time. That's not the case, of course, but there are most things that you will be doing in a trade that you should be under journeyman supervision. You're supposed to have that safety watch, or that somebody watching you and helping you, because when you screw up, it might be a pretty big screw up that causes injury or, like I said, even death. I got ahead of myself. I wanted to be the proactive, good apprentice that I thought I was going to be. So I set the boom truck up. I took the boom up in the air and I started to winch off, and I hooked up to this 1,400 pound concrete pad that had to be moved. And what had happened was, when I went to go lift that concrete pad, the winch line was not in the sheave as it should be on the boom. And that caused, when I started to winch up, it caused to tear or scratch the outside of the winch line. And yes, it's not the end of the world. Yes, it's not like biggest of deals, but I mean, that could have caused significant damage. It did cause damage to the winch line. Luckily, it was only like 10 feet up. And I say luckily, but honestly, at the end of the day, it's not a luckily type of thing. These things could result. I mean, who would have known, I move this concrete pad over, and there's no reason I should be operating this boom truck by myself with no one watching me or directing me or giving me any sort of hand signals. And it's the wrong thing to do, but I was trying to be proactive. And then I noticed that I screwed up, and I thought, well, shoot, now what? Like, there's no way of hiding this. The journeymen come back, and that's the first thing they notice is like, what in the world are you doing? Why are you operating this boom truck by yourself? And then they see the winch line, and man, I felt just stupid. And they weren't like mad at me or screaming at me, but they were disappointed that I thought that I could just do these things by myself. And that's not what I was supposed to be doing, but I thought I was being a good apprentice and being proactive. And at the end of the day, I learned my lesson. I said, well, I just thought I was doing the right thing. What I thought was wrong. And they explained to me that. And what we did was, well, we took the winch line off and we reversed the winch line and made it right or correct. And ultimately, the winch line is going to have to get changed out. It did get changed out. But what I learned from the lesson there was, well, I had to straight up take accountability. There's no way of just hiding this one. I took accountability, took ownership of that mistake. And a lot of the other mistakes that I made inside the apprenticeship and still to this day as a lineman, you make mistakes here and there. That's part of it. But the important thing about it is just taking ownership of your mistakes, because you don't want to start pointing fingers or blaming other people. If you try to just like sweep things under the rug so many times, eventually that rug becomes a big pile and people start tripping on it. So you start making little mistakes here and you start thinking, oh, it's not that big of a deal. Like, they're not going to notice. No one's going to notice. Or you can just hide it, or you can just sweep it under the rug. And it's not a big deal. Eventually, enough of those small deals, big deals, eventually become one big deal that could result in equipment failure or somebody getting hurt, or like I said, even dying. It's important to take accountability for your mistakes, take ownership of things you screw up on. So then that way, makes other people aware of what's going on your crew. Or it's important to let your foreman know, your journeyman know that, hey, I did XYZ. I know I shouldn't have done it by myself. I should have waited for somebody to help me do it. But I thought that I could do it by myself, and I thought wrong, and I screwed this thing up. And it's more important for you to just let that be known and take accountability for it right off the bat as soon as you can. So then people are aware of what's going on. So then down the line, a week later, 2 weeks later, a month later, and all of a sudden the foreman or the journeyman notices, like, what in the world happened to the winch line? And you're like, crap, now it's been a month. And you're like, well, remember that one time, I thought I was being proactive and I was using the boom truck by myself, and I accidentally scratched the winch line, and I quickly just took the winch line off and I reversed it, and then I thought I fixed it and no one would notice, but eventually someone will notice. Eventually those things catch up to you. So if you can just take accountability and ownership right off the bat, then, yes, it might sting, it sucks. It's scary to be like telling your superiors that, crap, I screwed up, but it's the right thing to do. So if there's one thing I could advise you apprentices or groundmen or laborers or even young journeymen in general, just people in general working in a trade, is just like taking accountability and ownership of your mistakes. Man, I screwed up. I know I shouldn't have done that, but I screwed up. And they're going to be like, yeah, you did screw up. You're an idiot. But thank you for telling me. I appreciate the honesty, and then you can move forward and hopefully not make that same mistake again. Accountability and taking ownership and not making the same mistake twice are going to be a few things that are going to help you be successful. One point of advice for you apprentices getting started in a skilled trade: take accountability and ownership. It's only going to earn your respect and be able to have your crew trust you and know that you will be able to do the job correctly and not make the same mistake twice. With Blue Collar EDU, I'm here to expose, teach, and educate you about blue collar career opportunities and things that'll help you getting started in a skilled trade. And with that being said, I'll catch you on the next one.